This is Dimitri Lascaris for the Real News Network. On November 8th, the Indian capital city of Delhi gained the dubious distinction of becoming the most polluted city on the planet. The air quality is now so bad that it's equivalent to smoking 50 cigarettes a day. So how did Delhi and India become so polluted, and what can be done about this severe public health problem? Joining us to discuss this is Shouvik Chakraborty. Shouvik is currently a research fellow at the Political Economy Research Institute, UMass Amherst. He received his PhD from the Center for Economic Studies and Planning at JNU in New Delhi. He's published a variety of progressive economic articles, especially in the areas of development banking, international trade, food security, and energy and the environment. Shouvik's current research focuses on the generation of jobs through investment in clean renewable energy and developing an egalitarian green growth program. Thank you very much for joining us today, Shouvik.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start, Shouvik, by examining the main sources of air pollution in India. What are they?
So the main pollutants are the various particulate matters, sulfur oxides, NOx, and other pollutants which are mainly emitted from the fossil fuels. It's like burning fuel for electricity, for running cars, and as you know that Delhi have a very high car to population ratio. So these are burning of fossil fuels is the main cause of pollution in Delhi and other major cities in India.
I understand there's also a practice in some of the surrounding areas around Delhi, agricultural areas, of burning crops. Is that a significant source of pollution in Delhi?
See, according to the statistics, around 75% of the air pollution is due to the fossil fuels. And most of it is due to the burning of fuels due to the generation of electricity and transportation needs. Now, of course, there is a pollution due to those agricultural burnings and other non-energy sources. But the majority problem lies with the usage of fossil fuels in the economy.
Can you give us a sense of what life is like for the residents of Delhi in these extraordinarily polluted conditions? Practically speaking, what limitations does this level of air pollution impose on their daily lives?
So this has a huge impact, especially if you look at some of the studies which has come up, like the Lancet Commission. It says that 1.9 billion people in India are affected by this air pollution, very heavily affected. In fact, the Indian Journal of Pediatrics has come up with a study which shows that on these heavily polluted cities like Delhi, 10%, the children have 10% smaller lungs than the children compared to the United States. So the life has become very difficult there. During that period, I myself was in Delhi, and it was very difficult. People have to wear masks during those hazardous conditions just to protect themselves from this heavy polluted air. And a day-to-day life during those time became very difficult.
Now, there's a lot of focus, and rightly so, on Delhi being the most polluted city, but I understand the problem of severe air pollution is not one that's unique to Delhi in India. Could you talk to us more generally about the quality of air, the air quality outside of the capital?
Oh, even in outside, the air quality is quite bad. If you look at some CBS News, the Telegraph, UK, they identified some of the major polluted cities across the world, among which many of the other prominent cities focus, like Agra, Gwalior, Ludhiana, Amritsar, and many other metropolitan cities. The problem, like I was telling you, is the huge dependence on fossil fuels, which actually is polluting. It's not only a cause for the pollution, but also, as we know, a huge cause for the climate change, the greenhouse gas carbon dioxide emissions. Like I was telling you, 75% of this carbon dioxide emissions comes from the burning of the fossil fuels. So even in other cities, since they are heavily dependent, And in general, in India, there is a huge reliance on the fossil fuels like coal, which is very dirty in nature, the coal itself, and also other fossil fuels like diesel, petroleum, which is popularly known as gas in the US. Like the dependence on these things have been very much responsible for even polluting the other cities in India.
And what exactly is the national government, and what are the state municipal governments doing in India to deal with this quite severe public health problem?
So to be very honest with you, I don't think this has still become a very important issue in India. Very sadly, it has not drawn the attention of the policymakers that it is supposed to do. Now, that's why many of us are trying to argue to the government that the time is running out. This is literally a public health emergency, like we have argued in our article also. And we are trying to put this issue in the forefront of the policymakers so that they become concerned about this health emergency and start looking at these issues more carefully. So this would definitely not only help in controlling the pollution, but also would help in protecting the planet and even, for that matter, protecting the India from the impacts of the climate change it is vulnerable to.
You talked about the predominance of fossil fuel consumption as a source of air pollutants. What is being done? And we hear a lot of talk about initiatives within India to ramp up renewable energy. What is being done in that regard? And do you think enough is being done in India to transition the economy to a renewable, clean energy economy?
So at present, the Indian government spends merely around 0.6% of its GDP on energy, on this clean renewable energy. But as my research, along with Professor Robert Paulin and Rohit Azad, who is from JNU, New Delhi, has shown that this is not enough. The government needs to spend almost like 1.5% more of that 0.6%, which is existing over. So that this energy transformation can be done. And what we are suggesting is that this money, because there might be a fiscal concern about this, that this money can be generated through taxing the very source which is polluting the atmosphere, which is the fossil fuels. We can collect what is popularly known in the literature as a carbon tax and spend them on the people's improvement of the air quality and providing people with free energy and public transportation. So our study shows that the government is not doing enough. It has to do much more than required, and it needs to come back to the center stage of our policymakers so that they spend more on this remodeling of the energy mix.
And finally, how important is India's transition to clean renewable energy to the overall battle against the climate crisis?
Definitely. So like I was telling you, because greenhouse gas emission is a major, like India today contributes in totality around 2.2 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. In per capita terms, we are very low, but if we look at in totality, it is at a very high level. And honestly speaking, we don't have to do this. We can remodel the energy mix in favor of clean renewable energy like solar, geothermal, small scale hydro, and other wind. And India has a lot of potential for it. And also India's energy efficiency levels can be improved by investing in building retrofits, then in improving the industrial energy efficiency, public transportation investments. So there is a huge scope for improvement in India, even in terms of those usage of energy in improving the energy efficiency and at the same time remodeling the energy. And just to add to this point, one of the major concerns in the Indian economy is the huge inequality in the usage of energy. the cities, like I was telling you, have been heavily polluted. And this is mainly because the cities are so much dependent on fossil fuel, whereas in the rural areas, people don't even have access to energy. Like 30% of rural India is still not does not have any access to energy. 35% of total all over India has access to cleaner fuels and technologies. So there is a lot of scope for improvement in rural India, providing people with electricity and energy, which is not being done at current.
This has been Dimitri Lascaris speaking to Shouvik Chakraborty, a research fellow at the Political Economy Research Institute at UMass Amherst, about a growing and severe problem of air pollution in India. Thank you very much for joining us today, Shouvik.
Thank you for having me.
And this is Dimitri Lascaris for the Real News Network.